The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark.
Glory to you, Lord.
One Sabbath day, Jesus happened to be taking a walk through the cornfields, and his disciples began to pick ears of corn as they went along. And the Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing something on the Sabbath day that is forbidden?" And he replied, "Did you never read what David did in his time of need when he and his followers were hungry? How he went into the house of God when Abiathar was high priest and ate the loaves of offering which only the priests are allowed to eat, and how he also gave some to the men with him. And he said to them, The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. The Son of Man is master even of the Sabbath." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
There has been a number of encounters between Jesus and the Pharisees and the scribes in Mark's Gospel, chapter 2. First of all, when he heals the paralytic, he was being asked, why is this man speaking like this? Only God has power to forgive sins. And then later on, the next passage was the calling of Matthew. And then they say, why is your master eating with sinners and tax collectors? They're asking these why questions. And yesterday we heard about why is it that your disciples do not fast? And then today, this is all in chapter 2. They're asking, why are you doing this on a Sabbath? So you could see that there is an agenda prepared by the scribes and the Pharisees to destroy the mission, the agenda of Jesus. They are bent on that. They want to destroy everything that he was planning to do and his way of teaching, and his way of life as well. But they forget to know that Jesus himself created the Sabbath. That is why he said at the end, the Son of Man also is Lord of the Sabbath. They feel he's just the son of a carpenter, but they forget to know that it is God made man. He is the one who created the Sabbath, and he redefines what the Sabbath is. He says the Sabbath is meant for man and not man for the Sabbath. So that is the redefinition. And what does that mean? That the Sabbath is meant to serve man. God is expressing his love to humankind through the Sabbath. Remember the encounter that Jesus had with the same scribes and Pharisees in Luke's Gospel, chapter 13, where Jesus entered the synagogue and he healed this woman who was bent double on a Sabbath. And they all said, "Why do you do this? People should come on other days, not on the Sabbath, to be healed." And Jesus says, no, this is also a daughter of Abraham. And Jesus is trying to express the love that God has for humankind on the Sabbath. The Sabbath is nothing without love. You can never talk about the Sabbath if there is no expression of service to humankind, service of love. When Jesus talks about the parable of the Good Samaritan, in Luke's Gospel, chapter 10, we hear that the Levite comes, the first person is the priest who sees the person almost dying. And he passed by, maybe because he is late for Mass or because there is something happening that he has to go to. And the Levite comes also, maybe because he has cleansed himself, he does not want to touch this person. And the Sabbath and the law, it goes hand in hand, that the law or the Sabbath is meant to serve humankind. If there is a law that cannot serve people, then it's no longer a law. If there is a law that enslaves people, then it is not it has lost its purpose, it has lost its saltness, as you will say in Matthew's Gospel. And it's so important that we must also know that Jesus sees his disciples, they are hungry, it is a Sabbath, he knows that they need food. So he allows them to eat, because that is what the Sabbath is meant for. It's meant for love, it's meant for service. And the Sabbath is meant to serve humankind. The Sabbath is meant for man, not man for the Sabbath. And therefore, whatever thing we do, we must ask ourselves the question, is what I'm doing now, is it of service? Is it because of love of God and love of neighbor? Is it of service to humankind? And if it is not, if it is enslaving us, even including coming for Mass, if Mass is beginning to enslave you, then it is losing its purpose. If the laws that we have written, the rules of the seminary that we have written down, if you feel it is not serving you, it is not helping you, it is not because of love of me, it is not serving you, then it is losing its purpose. Because it is meant to guide us. The laws are meant to serve humankind. It is meant to serve us. It is not meant to enslave us. And that is what St. Paul talked about in Galatians, talking about the law. The law, you must remember that the law is meant to serve us. It is something of love, the love of God. It is not meant to enslave us. We are not slaves of the law, because God set us free from this enslavement of the law through his death on the cross. And therefore, whatever thing we do, my dear brothers and sisters, even if it's a life of prayer, it's a coming to Mass, and we feel we are enslaved to it, then we must begin to question ourselves. Am I doing this because of love of God or love of neighbor? Or am I doing it just to satisfy my own self? Because at times we do some of these things because we want to gratify and feel good about our own selves, and we forget about this is something of an encounter. I want to have an encounter with Jesus Christ. I want to experience the love of God in whatever thing I do. And this is what Jesus tells the Pharisees and the scribes. It is not about what people are eating. It is not about my service on the Sabbath. It is about the love of God. It's not about saying we keep the Sabbath, we keep the Sabbath. It doesn't matter. If somebody is dying on the Sabbath, let the person die. But we are not meant to do anything on the Sabbath. No. Jesus says the Sabbath is meant to serve humankind. And he came to teach us one thing, and that is love of God and love of neighbor. It doesn't matter when it is going to happen, but it should be there. It should be the priority. It should go beyond the law. It is deeper than the law, the love that we have for each other and the love that we have for God. So let us ask God during this Eucharistic celebration to be able to reconnect and come to know again and again that the love that we have for each other, the love that we have for God, goes beyond everything. It goes beyond every law, and it goes beyond the Sabbath.